Hello, I'm Atlanta City Council member Andre Dickens. Census 2020 is upon us. The results of the census impact every aspect of our daily lives. Congressional representation, funding for schools, roads, and even hospitals. It's all determined by data from the census. It's just a few easy questions and will only take 10 minutes to complete. You can respond online, by phone, or by mail. ATL counts. Census 2020. Atlanta is counting on you.
So glad you could take a few moments out for Stay at Home Connect. I'm Phyllis Jackson.
The FDA plans to issue more stringent standards for emergency use authorization of a COVID-19 vaccine. Agency officials say the goal of the guidance is to provide more transparency and increase public trust. The FDA will require vaccine manufacturers to closely follow clinical trial volunteers for at least 2 months after they receive a second dose of the vaccine. FDA officials are also asking that trials identify a determined number of severe cases of COVID in those who received a placebo during the trials. Few pharmaceutical companies are expected to have these results by November. That's a drone carrying a package for delivery. Inside, an at-home COVID-19 self-collection kit. Walmart teams up with Quest Diagnostics and drone provider DroneUp to kick off the trial deliveries in North Nevada and New York next month. Kits will be delivered within a 1-mile radius of specific Walmart supercenters. There's no fee for delivery or the kit for those who elect to receive their test at home. Customers can conduct a self-administered nasal swab and then send the sample back with a prepaid shipping label. Walmart expects the results of the trial will inform how the company will use drone delivery in the future.
Antonio Brown, look at him go.
5 NFL teams face fines after their head coaches failed to wear their face masks during their games. Head coaches Sean Payton of the New Orleans Saints and John Gruden with the Las Vegas Raiders are named among the latest to be fined $100,000 apiece. Other teams facing fines for coaches who failed to adhere to the policy: the Seattle Seahawks, Denver Broncos, and the San Francisco 49ers. Halloween will take on a new look this year. The CDC posts guidelines that do not support the standard trick-or-treating events. Tradition will have to take a back seat to safety in order to protect little ones from COVID-19 transmission. The guidelines, which are split into low, moderate, and high risk, also warn against haunted houses, which could lead to screaming, another potential infection route. The safest option? The CDC suggests pumpkin carving with the family, or outside with a safe social distance, or scavenger hunts. Officials also say costume masks are no substitute for cloth masks, but warn against wearing both, saying that a cloth mask with a Halloween theme is the safer option.
School lunches, new roads, Medicaid. Did you know that funding for these and other critical services are determined by data from the census?
Atlanta City Council member Carla Smith reminds us about Census 2020. You can register online, by phone, or by mail. The deadline is fast approaching. Go to atlcounts.org. That's atlcounts.org.
That's a wrap. We'll see you on the next edition of Stay at Home Connect.
This year marks the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment, which guarantees and protects women's constitutional right to vote. The journey to that vote was filled with countless women defiantly marching and protesting to ensure their voices were heard. Bold women like Susan B. Anthony and Frances Harper. These fearless ladies led the way so that we could go to the polls and vote for the candidates we feel are most qualified to represent us and our values. We can't take the right to vote for granted. I'm Atlanta City Council member Carla Smith, reminding you to get registered to vote. The deadline for the November 3rd election is October the 5th. Go to registertovote.sos Again, registertovote.sos.ga.gov. Let us honor the memory of those who made our ability to vote possible. Don't let their efforts go in vain. Let your voice be heard. Use your power, get registered, and vote. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Atlanta City Council member Andre Dickens. For years, we have gathered together to walk and to stay healthy. Well, we're not going to let COVID-19 cancel our annual appointment. This year, the 6th annual Senior Walk and Exercise class is going virtual. Now join me Friday, October 2nd at noon for virtual exercise and activities that you can do from your own home.
7, 6.
Fitness pro Leslie Mangum will lead class with workouts catered for seniors. So go to bit.ly/Senior Walk 2020 to get registered for this free event, which will be live streamed on Zoom, Facebook, Instagram, and Atlanta Channel 26. Okay, now lace up your tennis shoes, grab your towel, grab your bottled water, and your laptop or phone, and let's get it going, seniors. I'll see you online.
This year marks the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment, which guarantees and protects women's constitutional right to vote. The journey to that vote was filled with countless women defiantly marching and protesting to ensure their voices were heard. Bold women like Susan B. Anthony and Frances Harper. These fearless ladies led the way so that we could go to the polls and vote for the candidates we feel are most qualified to represent us and our values. We can't take the right to vote for granted. I'm Atlanta City Council member Carla Smith, reminding you to get registered to vote. The deadline for the November 3rd election is October the 5th. Go to registertovote.sos.ga.gov. Again, registertovote.sos.ga.gov. Let us honor the memory of those who made our ability to vote possible. Don't let their efforts go in vain. Let your voice be heard. Use your power, get registered, and vote. Thank you.
Afternoon, everyone. It is 1:30, and it is time for the regularly scheduled Atlanta City Council Finance and Executive Committee. I'm Howard Shook. I'm the vice chair, but today I will be pinch hitting for our chair, Jennifer Hyde, who cannot be with us today. Ms. Kempson Wright, if you're ready, please proceed.
Yes. Councilmember Natalie Mosby Archibald. Here. Councilmember Andre Dickens.
Here.
Councilmember J.P. Mazikite.
Here.
Councilmember Joyce M. Shepherd. Present. Councilmember Matt Westmoreland.
Here.
Okay. Mr. Chair, we have a total of 6 members, and you do have a quorum. This Finance Executive Committee meeting is being conducted remotely as advertised and is in accordance with the official code of Georgia 5014-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert's Rules of Order and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public may access the meeting by the following conference bridge. Toll-free access 1-877-579-6743. Conference ID 831-599-1256, which was noted on the Friday, September 25th, public meeting notice. The public may also view the meeting on Channel 26, citycouncilatlantag.gov, or the Council's Facebook and Twitter pages via ATL Council. All presentations are available on the Atlanta City Council Finance Executive Committee presentation page. The agenda was published and made available on Friday, September 25th via atlantacitygA.iq2.com. Public comment was accepted between the hours of 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. on yesterday, Tuesday, September 29th. All persons present on the remote council meeting conference bridge are requested to mute your phones and speakers. Additionally, speakers must be acknowledged by the presiding officer prior to speaking. Each council member is requested to open your Outlook email and minimize the screen. Amendments, substitutes, and informational documents were distributed to committee members beforehand. Thank you all in advance for your cooperation.
All right, thank you. We do have a quorum, so I'll call the meeting to order.
Mr. Chair, I just want to acknowledge my present, Council President Moore.
And that would be Council President Moore, who's with us. Thank you. There are no proposed walk-ins, and so I will move approval of the agenda as well as the minutes of the prior meeting.
Second, Westmoreland.
All right, let's open the vote.
Chair, I will be voting by voice vote. This is Archibald.
Thank you.
Same for Dickens. I am logging in. I had to do a restart. So my first couple of votes will be by voice. And I'm a yay.
Thank you.
And I'm a yay.
Thank you. All right, it's 6-0. The minutes and the agenda are adopted. And now public comments.
Mr. Chair, we do have to take a separate vote for the approval of the minutes.
Oh, all right. I'll move approval. You've all read them and committed them to memory. I will move approval. Mr. Westmoreland has seconded. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
Dickens is a yay.
Ms. Archibald. Ms. Archibald. Okay. She's a yay, so the minutes are adopted. And now, public comment.
Greetings to you, committee members and staff, and special greetings to you, citizens of Atlanta. who have tuned in to these proceedings. Ben Howard, Senior Advocate, Public Policy Analyst. The jurisdictions of standing committees are spelled out under Chapter 2-135 of the City's Code of Ordinances. Item 22 on the Finance Committee states awarding of sole source and special procurement contracts. Awarding of sole source and special procurement contracts. It has been reported that NPUR Zoom meetings are not covered by the same contract as other NPUs in the system. This is apparently why the NPUR 9 can get away with insisting that citizens use the name Antonita as the gateway for entry into NPUR meetings. Sole source procurement notwithstanding, I ask that you declare it unethical that to Antonita or to any individual before being fully allowed to participate in civic affairs in the city of Atlanta. Be advised, however, that any attempt you might make to change the way NPUR operates under the NPUR 9 will be met with stiff resistance by the members of the NPUR 9 syndicate, Antonita Robinson, Paulus Clare, Ricardo Jacobs, Alfred White, Annette L. Scott, Allison Hathaway, and the NPUR 9 cohorts.
Does that conclude public comment?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it does.
All right, thank you. And please recite the consent agenda. Well, we have quarterly reports. All right. We have 4, but really 5, because we're also going to hear audit on their Live Nation report. And so I'm going to thank all the presenters in advance for being unusually concise. First up, it's the Commissioner of HR.
Good afternoon, Council Member Cook and members of the Finance Executive Committee. This is Jeffrey Norman with the Department of Human Resources. And so we can go ahead and pull up the slides, and I will move forward and provide the presentation. And so we can actually start on slide 3. Slide 3 is going to provide you of an overview of those brief updates that I'll provide you with today. We'll walk you a little bit through the COVID-19 employee testing, extension of the hazard pay program as it relates to mission critical employees, the time off of pay for employee voting access, as well as resumption of civil service board hearings in a remote fashion. And then we'll touch on a couple of departmental highlights, as well as quarterly headcount statistics. We can go to slide 4. And we can actually go ahead and go to slide 6. And so as the council is aware, as the city now resides in phase 2, the overall phase 5 reopening, the city remains in a mandatory telework deployment with mission critical employees still reporting on a daily basis. And so as part of responding to COVID-19, we have continued to focus on ensuring that we protect the health and safety of our workforce. And as part of that, the city has established a direct testing program, and we are working in coordination with health staff to make sure that our mission critical employees have direct access for testing services, as well as services through the City of Atlanta Wellness Center. We also continue in our partnership with the Georgia Department of Public Health to ensure that free COVID-19 testing is available in addition to our direct testing opportunity. And we continue to ensure that our healthcare providers, Blue Cross Blue Shield and Kaiser Permanente, provide free testing services that employees are able to access through their primary care physicians. We can go to slide 7, COVID-19 testing program. And so as I mentioned, we have directly partnered with HealthStat to ensure that we are able to stand up a direct testing program. And as part of that testing program, we are utilizing the nasal swab testing, and those allow first responders as well as essential staff to make appointments so that they can receive direct testing and determine whether or not they are in a positive or negative status. Next slide. And so as part of setting up that program, to date, we are averaging those every week, and every other week. And so to date, during August and September, we've conducted 4 of those sessions. And so you can see those listed where we've had the drive-through testing opportunities as well as walk-up testing. And so I did want to share with you on the next slide, as of September 11th, as part of that program, we had tested approximately 334 employees. Of those employees, 331 of those individuals were negative, and we saw that we had 3 individuals who did test positive. That kind of gives you a breakdown there for your review based on the departments that have actually participated thus far. We will continue to schedule those testing opportunities throughout the end of the year to ensure that we make that opportunity available to all departments where they can actually schedule to make sure that folks have an opportunity to avail themselves of that testing program. We can go to the next slide. And so there, just provide a brief overview of the continuation of our hazard pay program. The highlights of that, the program has been extended through December 31st of this year. All mission critical employees remain eligible for that benefit up to $500 per month. As part of the new program, there will be no further accrual of hazard pay compensatory time, but the hazard pay compensatory time that has been accrued up to this point does not have an expiration date. We can go to the next slide. As we move into the next 3 months, as part of that program, we will be looking at prorating the hazard pay benefit based on attendance and utilization to ensure that those folks who actually are receiving the full $500 benefit actually are meeting a minimum 70% utilization rate. We have also moved forward with removing the hazard pay compensatory time as the first bucket of utilization for leave time. And lastly, we remain, employees will remain in a posture where upon separation, the CFO will be able to provide a cash payment up to 1/4 of accumulated hazard pay compensatory time. We can go to the next slide. And so just wanted to briefly touch on the executive order that the mayor had issued relative to time off with pay for employee voting access. And the takeaway there is obviously that normally employees are allocated up to 2 hours for those purposes, and that has been expanded to a 4-hour period. Next slide. Wanted to make the council aware that we are scheduled to resume Civil Service Board hearings remotely starting on October 1st, which is tomorrow. And obviously that will assist us as we move forward with making sure that classified employee appeals are heard, that those remote hearings will be held through the Zoom platform. And we're excited to have the opportunity to move forward and make sure that employees are able to get some certainty relative to adverse action that they have challenged. Next slide. And so just wanted to provide a couple of brief highlights. Obviously, as we continue through this pandemic period, we've remained focused on the emotional health of our employee workforce. And I've reported before that EAP has ensured that we set up a telemental health platform so employees do have an opportunity to avail themselves of that service virtually. EAP has been working diligently over the last couple of months to ensure that they are physically presenting themselves at duty stations to provide a pulse check-in. And we have primarily focused our initial efforts within public safety personnel based on their extended hours. We have also made sure that we continue to provide resources through communication to our greater workforce, and wanted to recognize that as part of those communications, the city did recognize September, which is Suicide Prevention Month, and so we did provide a series of resources to the employee workforce to provide guidance there. Next slide. Also wanted to bring to the council's attention that we have continued to move forward with coordination of citywide virtual fitness training sessions with our contracted vendors. And so those have gone out citywide as well. And you will see those here on the slide, which are representative of what we have provided. Those provide Zoom activities for the greater workforce, and those also offer access to tutorial videos from those folks who want to access those from their video library. It also provides newsletters, and ultimately it provides for a medium that will facilitate folks being able to stay healthy during this deployment period. We can go to the next slide. And so general highlights, just wanted to note that we've had the opportunity to complete entering all of the FY21 personnel paper transactions. We've completed phase 2 and phase 3 pay increases for the fire department and the police department. We have continued to move forward with utilizing a virtual platform to provide professional development training, as well as new employee orientation to new employees. We've assisted with the transition of ATL 311 into their full telework model. And lastly, we've moved forward with launching the 2020 Citywide Healthy Rewards Program for our healthcare members. And as you're aware, while that has been shifted to a little bit of a different platform with telehealth, employees with Blue Cross Blue Shield still remain eligible to get up to $250 in gift cards for participation in that program. And for Kaiser members, they remain eligible to receive up to $300 in gift cards. We can go to the next slide. And we can go to quarterly headcount statistics. And so I will share that the council probably remembers in July, once we came through the budget, we were looking at a 8,566 headcount. As you can see the breakdown here, we are currently at 8,462. You can see the actual head count numbers as well as the percentages as part of the presentation. And that is further broken down for the all other departments on the next slide. And that, council membership, will complete my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. I was muted. Question?
Yes, sir.
I have a question. Where are we with APD? Obviously, there's a huge interest in following the ups and downs since the beginning of the year. What can you tell us?
And so I know that I have previously provided a breakdown of those statistics to the to I believe the Finance Executive Committee. I can prepare the same type of data and provide that to you. So we have been tracking that information relative to resignations, retirements through the police department. And so I will go ahead and pull those metrics for you, and I can provide that to you under separate cover at the conclusion of the meeting today.
All right, well, thank you. You've been good about that, and you covered us up to, I believe it was last month, and so we're interested in keeping score. So, yeah, please get that to us. Other questions or comments for Commissioner Norman?
This is Councilman Westmoreland. I have a question. On slide 18, it references 188 corrections personnel. Can you talk a little bit about that slice? Back during the budget season, we had talked about positions going to the Office of Constituent Services. It's still listed as corrections here. What is the latest on that transition?
And so, yeah, well, we did capture that, and we just wanted to make sure that we identified that pool. But you are correct; those positions actually were shifted under the Executive Office of Constituent Services. And so we are obviously engaged in identifying and working through redeployment efforts. And I think we are actually, the administration is scheduled to present relative to the current status of corrections in the next couple of weeks. And so there'll be a fuller explanation that will kind of lay out all of the efforts as it relates to that, but you are correct. This is representative of the personnel that is part of the personnel paper that were shifted under constituent services. We just wanted to make sure that as we, based on our normal reporting, we did make that group easily identifiable.
Okay. I think this might be a good opportunity, not necessarily directed at you, but just more broadly. When we adopted the budget in June, Councilmember Shepard added an amendment that discussed the personnel transition that was going to take place, and that a deployment plan needed to come back and be presented to PSLA and Finance Exec, and that Council needed to adopt that by November 2nd. And since we're about a month away from that, wanted to go ahead and put that on everybody's radar. So, thank you.
Yes, sir. That definitely is on the administration's radar. And as I indicated, that plan is being prepared. And I believe there have been discussions with the respective chairs about the administration providing that presentation during the course of October.
Good deal. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Westmoreland. Other questions or comments? All right, Commissioner Norman, you're off the hook.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yep. Thank you. That takes us to our second presentation, Department of Customer Service. Are you ready? Do we have customer service, or do we need to move on?
One moment, Mr. Chair. We're confirming.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you so much. I do apologize for that. I was on mute. My name is Salithia Graham, the Commissioner for the Department of Customer Service. We can go ahead and move to the next slide. To start the presentation, I want to share some general information about ATL 311 and how to contact us. We are the City of Atlanta's primary contact channel for non-emergency services and information. Our operating hours are Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We can be reached through various channels such as ATL 311 mobile app, website, and on all social media platforms. We are budgeted for 111 FTE, and we currently have 4 vacancies. Next slide, please. I will now share a few accomplishments the team has achieved since the start of the fiscal year. We created an ATL 311 NPU ambassador team that includes 15 employees. This will allow us to participate in all NPU meetings consistently. The map on the right of the slide was prepared by Dr. Moshe Haskell with Emory University, who analyzed ATL 311 data in partnership with Bloomberg Foundation. The map shows the number of fulfillment service requests we have received thus far in 2020 by NPU. The darker the color, the more requests that particular NPU or that area has submitted. This will allow us to focus more on our marketing strategy for areas that may not be familiar with ATL 311 and how to report concerns. The next thing I want to highlight is the 1.9 million impressions we've had on the 28 super signs that are located throughout the city. An impression represents the number of people who have walked by or seen the sign while ATL 311 content was running. We also recently implemented a part-time pilot program. Instead of onboarding one full-time employee per vacancy, we have onboarded 2 part-time employees. This allows us to increase our workload capacity during peak hours while staying within the budget. We currently have 12 part-time employees who are doing well in our virtual training program, and I'm looking forward to their positive impact to our service delivery, which leads me to the next highlight, which is the creation and implementation of our 100% virtual training program. Lastly, we have received more than 14,000 responses to our post-call survey since the start of the fiscal year. 85% of the responders are satisfied or highly satisfied with our overall customer experience when contacting ATL 311. Next slide, please. This slide shows our call volume by month along with our service level performance. Our call volume has stabilized since the start of the pandemic, and we are receiving near normal overall volume. There are some departments that have shown an increase in volume compared to the same time last year. I'll speak more to that in subsequent slides, but we are expecting our call volume to peak again once municipal court resumes normal operation. Next slide, please. Our social media team continues to be an incredible asset to ATL 311. They have received and responded to more than 3,600 messages since the start of the fiscal year. Twitter continues to be our most active social media platform, with 57% of the messages coming from that application. Next slide. I will now focus the presentation on our top 5 request type. I'll first provide the information overall and then by department. So since the start of the fiscal year, our bulk collection requests have been our #1 request type. The rest of the list includes requests to establish new water and sewer service, questions and concerns related to water bills, and damaged garbage bin replacement. The biggest thing to note about this particular list during this quarter is that municipal court is not a part of the top 5. They're typically our #1 call type, but this has since changed due to the closure as a result of the pandemic. Next slide. The Department of Watershed Management, we've taken more than 47,000 requests for the department, and that is a 35% increase over what we did the same time last year. As I previously stated, their number one call driver is the establishment of water and sewer requests. The rest of their top 5 involve questions regarding water and sewer bills. Next slide. We handled more than 36,000 requests for the Department of Public Works. That is up 22% from the same time last year. Their number one request is bulk collection, followed by damaged garbage bin replacement and requests for missed collections. Next slide. Municipal court's number one request type is how much is my court fine and how do I pay it? This is followed by a request for a 912 release form, which is a form that is provided to defendants once they've paid their citations. The other request types are related to missed court dates and court closure due to the pandemic. We have seen a 60% reduction in service requests for municipal court compared to the same time last year. Next slide. Now we have Atlanta Police Department code enforcement. We've taken more than 7,800 requests for APD. This is a 10% decrease from the same time last year. The top request type is really just inquiries on the to receive general information on how the code enforcement process works, followed by requests for overgrown grass, junk, trash, and debris. Next slide. Lastly, we have the Office of Revenue. Their number one request type is registering a new business, followed by solid waste charges and billing, and then business license renewal. We have seen a 30% increase in their volume over this time last year. Next slide. My final slide provides COVID-19 data. ATF 311 has received more than 12,000 calls related to COVID-19, with the majority being inquiries related to municipal court closure. That is followed by senior meal requests and questions related to the city's response to the pandemic. Our Notify ATL, which is the city's emergency notification system, has put out more than 45 campaigns related to COVID throughout the pandemic. And since the start of the fiscal year, we have sent 31 campaigns, which does not include the campaign that was sent today that speaks to the city moving into phase 2 of the 5-phase reopening plan. Next slide. And with that, I first want to thank the staff of the Department of Customer Service for their commitment in providing excellent customer service. Thank you for the opportunity to present, and I'm open to take any questions that you have.
All right, well, thank you for that presentation. Colleagues, questions? All right, hearing none, you're released on your own recognizance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schiff.
Thank you. That takes us to the presentation number 3, Department of Finance COVID-19 update, and I understand this will be presented by Mr. Deloach, so if he's unmuted, he may commence.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chair. This is Jerry Deloach, Director of our Office of Enterprise Risk Management, and I will be presenting the report this afternoon.
Thank you.
May I have the first slide, please? The first slide is just the cover page indicating the date of the report. Next slide, please. There's no change in the second slide. It merely recites the reporting requirements that has been placed on the Chief Financial Officer. Next slide, please. Slide number 3 states all the federal sources of federal funds that the city has received to date. Amongst those funds include the Coronavirus Emergency Supplement Grant from the Department of Justice, but the Atlanta Police Department. The amount is to the right. The Federal Aviation Administration for the Department of Aviation, the amount is to the right. FEMA Public Assistance Award, that is for FEMA. The amount funded thus far is $1,577,922.65. The next source of funding is the United States Department of Treasury, commonly known as the CARES funding. That amount is $88,434,611.30. And we have 3 smaller grants from the department that is being managed by the Department of Grants and Community Development. And total funds received from federal funds thus far, $439,618,223.95. Next slide, please. We are required to report to the council the expenditures that are for nonprofit and philanthropic organizations. We have 3 that are listed. Georgia's Own Credit Union. There is no change in that. They provided grants amounting to $2,000 to 750 recipients. That was to provide financial support to employees of City of Atlanta contractors. Invest Atlanta had a fund to provide small business loans to small businesses within the City of Atlanta that range from $5,000 to $30,000. They've exhausted all of those funds, and they provided assistance to 59 entities for a total of $1,550,000. And the $50,000 is attributable to a donation from the Arthur Blank Foundation. And then Invest Atlanta United Way provided financial support to the homeless population. Next slide, please. The next slide is a summary of donations that we are required to report on. If you will note on this slide, we have all of the donations that we received in FY20, and we have donations received for the month of July, August, and September. For the month of September, we received $15,500 in donations that were made to Atlanta Fire Foundation for $14,000, and a donation from the Tappan Cultural Economic Office in Atlanta for $1,500. Total amount for September is $15,500. Just to note, the reason you see $14,000 consistently across the board for July, August, and September is because that is the amount of money that's been attributed to donations for the space that has been donated to the city where we're storing our PPE at. Thus far, our total donations received include, up to date, $829,096.54. The primary sources of donations for the departments have been to fire, police, public works, and the executive offices, and those numbers are listed at the bottom. Next slide, please. Another side note, the reason the donations are important is because it helps to reduce the actual amount of cash money that the city will be required to meet its matching obligations from FEMA. The next slide is a recitation of the individuals who have made donations to the city and the detailed information required by the Office of Ethics. Slide 7, same thing. Slide 8, same information. Slide 9, same information. Slide 10, same information. Slide 11. Slide 11 provides an overview of the expenditures that have been attributed to COVID-19 as of September 24, 2020. Your first column will show all of the activities that we have been engaged in. The middle column will show the budget that allowed us to participate in those particular programs. And to your far left-hand side, you will see the funding source. This column to the far left is in response to the information requested at the last City Council meeting. Okay. If I start at the top, it will indicate that we had funded from the original $8.5 million, we funded $1 million for children's food program. Thus far, we've expended $162,558.72 for those food programs. As a result, $131,010.69 will come from the CARES Act. We have a pending transfer of $31,540.03 that has not posted yet, but we know that it will. So a total of $162,558.72 will come from CARES to replenish the city's fund balance that was used for the original funding. For the seniors food program, we allocated $1 million. In FY20, we spent $407,000 and $61.97. In FY21, we spent $198,612.29. The total expenditures thus far for senior food program is $605,674.26. If you're looking at funding, it will indicate that we've already accredited $332,794.61 to the fund balance, and we have a pending transfer for those expenses for $272,879.65. And you'll see the total to the far right. On the Invest Atlanta Homeless Program, we have budgeted $1 million for that. We spent $1 million in FY20, and we have $1 million that is for expenditures. And if you'll see to the far right, it shows a column that says city funds and to be determined. Those funds for that Invest Atlanta Homeless Preparedness Program, they have not been attributed to CARES or FEMA, and they will undergo further evaluation, and that's why they're listed in the city funds column. And I will spend more time at the end of the presentation describing what the city funds means to the city of Atlanta and to its budget. On Invest Atlanta, for the assistance of small businesses, we spent $1.5 million in FY20, total of expenditures of $1.5 million. Of that $1.5 million, we have recouped $1.5 million from the CARES Act. The next line is for the non-departmental hourly wages earners. That is the $2,000 grant that we gave to contract employees. $1.5 million was budgeted for that. We had $1.5 million for expenditures. And if you'll see, that number is also listed in the city funds to be determined column. Our next item is for AIM. We budgeted in the general fund $1 million for AIM. We've had expenditures in FY20 of $1,069,000, $533.55. And of that amount, we've charged $1,064,490.55 to CARES, and we have $3,782.25 that will go to the FEMA matching, FEMA reimbursement, and the city is going to be responsible for the 25% matching, which is $1,260.75. On that original $7 million, if you will pay attention to the funding column, it will show thus far that $3,028,295.85 have been recouped from the CARES Act. We have a pending transaction of $304,427.68 that will transfer at some date in the future from the CARES funding. FEMA, for this particular $7 million, we're expecting a reimbursement of $3,782.25, and the city is responsible for the $1,260.75 match. Of that $7 million, the city is looking at possibly $2,500,000 to be responsible, and that's why that's listed there. I will move down to the next line, which is the trust fund, which had to do with Ordinance 20-01332, which was the shelter option for providing assistance to the homeless population. Of that budgeted amount, which was $1.5 million, in FY20, we spent $974,903. And in FY21, we spent a total of $484,028 for total expenditures related to that 1.5 of $1,458,931. If you will note, we have that listed on the funding as being sourced as the source, FEMA as being the source for that funding for $1,094,198.25, and the city is going to be responsible for a matching share of $364,732.75. For other expenses, which covers various departments, that includes supplies, cleaning, sanitizing buildings, rental program, and in FY20, and this is items that have not been budgeted from that original 8.5, and these are items that have been covered in the individual departments through their own resources available in their own budget. In FY20, that number was $4,090,615.50. In FY20, that number is $6,610,154.92 for a total amount of expenditures being $10,700,770.42. If you will note, in the funding column, we have $5,061,123.43 of that being funded through CARES, We have a pending transaction of $180,008.56 that's pending that will transfer sometime in the future. And of that $10 million, we're looking at a FEMA reimbursement of $3,649,531.49. And the city has a matching share responsibility of $1,216,510.50. Of that $10 million, we have in the column city funds to be determined the amount of $593,596.46. To summarize this, if you're looking at the city column in the far left, the potential exposure for the city at this particular point in time on those items that I've already talked about is $3,093,596.44. And the other allocations for that $17,997,466 has been allocated amongst CARES and FEMA and the matching share. I will move now to talk about hazardous pay. In FY20, we had $11,230,014.60. In FY21, we have spent $4,739,994.71 for total expenditures of $15,970,099.31. Of that amount, for $15 million, we have charged $13,184,611.30 to CARES Act. We have a balance that we have charged that we will seek reimbursement from FEMA from for $1,727,170.72, and the matching share for the city is $575,723.57. In addition to that, we have a small portion that we will either charge the city funds or to be determined at a later date. That amount is $482,503.72. To summarize hazardous pay, to summarize the total amount we've spent thus far is $33,967,477.26. If you will look at the very last line, it will show you how that total amount has been apportioned out amongst the various funds. We have $21,274,030.58 that has been charged to CARES. We have a pending transaction with CARES for $484,436.24 that will take place at some time in the future. We have a pending reimbursement from FEMA totaling $6,474,682.71. We have a responsibility for a FEMA matching share of $2,158,227.57. I want to spend a few minutes talking about that FEMA matching share. Earlier, when I was talking about donations, that amount of donations that we receive will be charged against that, which will reduce the amount of actual cash money that we will be responsible for in the near future. So that's why it's important that we continue to track our donations. And then in the last column, we have $3,576,100.16, which we believe is the ultimate city exposure at this particular point in time. These numbers will continue to change as we incur other expenditures or other donations coming in. And that concludes our report.
All right. Thank you, Jerry. Very detailed. Questions or comments? Let me ask this. There's a bill pending before Congress now. Is there anything in it for the city of Atlanta and its taxpayers, if you know?
Thus far, we've heard that there will be some funds made available to the city, but that specific allocation has not been made yet. It still has not been finalized, so we don't know what to expect from it. We continue to hope the best for it, though.
All right. Is it earmarked for any particular purposes?
Not to my knowledge at this time, no.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you again. Committee, questions or comments? All right, Mr. White.
Mr. Vice Chair, I'd like to just give a comment to our consultants who've been very responsive and have contributed to our keeping track of the dollars that we're spending and the funds as they come in, and they've been been of great help to us. I just want to say thank you to them.
So thank you for that. All right, if there's nothing else, we will now move on to our fourth report, which is the Department of Finance monthly meeting. And if we can unmute whoever it is, we're ready. Is this Tina?
Hello, this is Felicia Daniel. Can you hear me?
Oh, it's Flip. Yeah, thank you.
Good afternoon. This is Felicia Daniel from the Department of Finance. I will be reviewing the general fund revenue budget comparison by major category through August of 2020. This FY21 monthly general fund revenue report for August is prepared pursuant to 20-R-4006, which requires that Finance provide an update to the Finance Executive Committee at the second regularly scheduled meeting of each month, and reporting shall contain detailed information regarding collections for each of the general fund revenue streams and how collections compare to the budgeted revenue. This presentation begins with a listing of general fund major revenue categories. Next, the report provides the FY21 adopted budget amounts by major category. The FY21 adopted budget for general fund is $673 million, which includes a $34 million supplement from fund balance. Next, we present to you a comparison of FY21 actual projections year-to-date versus FY20 last year August actuals. FY21 August actuals year-to-date, budget versus actuals, which is 2 months. In total, year-to-date actuals through August are $47.5 million, which are lower than year-to-date projections of $52.3 million by $4.8 million, which is lower by 9.2%. An analysis of the major factors by category is as follows. The property tax variance of 1.8 is due only to a timing difference between last year's September 30th property tax deadline versus this year's property tax deadline of October 31st. As a result of this timing difference, we have not recognized as much in property tax revenue to date. However, you will certainly see a revenue smoothing effect over the next few months in this category as property taxes are received from both Fulton and DeKalb counties. The public utility and alcohol variance has decreased significantly from last month's variance of $1.1 million, due primarily to a decrease in August projections of $2.3 million versus $2.9 million in July projections. This highlights the cyclical nature of revenues and how budgets are based on these cycles that are specific to a category. For this reason, projections, especially in this category, does not follow a straight line methodology. For instance, some public utilities such as Comcast remit on a quarterly basis instead of a monthly basis, and projections are based on these realities. Alcohol excise taxes, which are included in this category, however, are significantly impacted by COVID. Through August, we have recorded approximately $1.2 million versus $3.2 million through August of last year. This is a 63% decline in alcohol-related excise taxes. That is taxed by the drink or wholesale alcohol. Local option sales tax is trending higher than year-to-date projections by $1 million. July and August average collections are $8.8 million versus last year, July and August average of $9.7 million. We are doing better than expected, but lower than last year. Consumers are still buying. However, how they are making their purchases have shifted to a larger degree to online versus in-store. Licenses and permits is higher than year-to-date projections by approximately 752,000. This positive trend stems from permits, building occupancy, plumbing, HVAC, and electrical, whose revenues are trending higher than last year by about 430,000. Additionally, prior year business license revenue is higher by about 600,000 due to increased compliance by businesses who need to apply or close on COVID-related business loans or grants that require a current business license. The other revenue category is marked by the infrequency or the unpredictable timing of receipts and includes accounts such as gain, loss on the sale of investment, which is based on the stock market. Interest allocation to the cash pool and interest earnings are based on, of course, interest rates or recoveries. And these are remittances that are governed by another authority over which we have no control, such as the federal or state, thereby making it challenging to anticipate our budget. However, for the most part, the lower interest rates have decreased interest earnings and cash pool interest allocations, which is what is impacting this category. Fines and penalties. The negative variance of about $1.3 million is directly related to the COVID-induced closure of city courts and lower traffic violations and parking enforcement. Generally, traffic citations represent about 80% of the caseload, and of course, as we all know, there is reduced traffic and parking demand due to COVID. Hotel motel, the negative variance of about $2 million, again, is directly related to the depressed demand stemming from COVID. The erosion of business, convention, and tourism activity, which has reduced demand, hotel occupancy rates, and thus lower room rates. Due to COVID, occupancy is now hovering near the 30% rate. There are upticks during the holidays, like Labor Day and Memorial Day, due to recreational travel, where occupancy may reach 70%. However, because room rates are significantly lower, the resulting revenue is lower. ACVB, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, is experiencing convention bookings for outer years, 2022 and 2023. These are all post-vaccine. However, 2021 convention bookings, of course, are slower than in years past. The last two columns compare FY20 August year-to-date actuals to FY21 August year-to-date actuals and show a variance of $12.2 million. Obviously, last year's revenues were not impacted by COVID and thus are higher than current year. However, our current year budget factored to the best of our ability COVID-related revenue impacts. As of August, the clear and present risk to this year's general fund revenues reside in alcohol beverage, fines and penalties from municipal court, and the hotel motel categories, all of which are impacted by COVID to a higher degree than anticipated. This ends the August revenue report presentation, and I yield to your questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you, I guess. I have some questions, but I will yield to the committee. All right, I'll have a question. I'm sorry.
Yes,
question?
Yes, I do. The hotel motel tax, how does that translate the reduced level of that to the money issues and other things that we have to, that we've pledged hotel motel tax revenue for?
The hotel motel revenues that are on this presentation are related to the general fund piece. This is the part, the 24.99% that we receive directly to the general fund. The the revenues related to Phillips or Mercedes-Benz are in the bond sinking fund, and I think upon review of millage rates, I believe that we were in a very good place from that perspective. But I would yield to Mr. Gaffney or Mr. Counsel to speak directly to the impact of how we are with the bond sinking fund and those revenues.
Yes, and I know it was Mercedes-Benz, but it seemed to me there was some other indebtedness we had that was backed by hotel motel tax. But I'll be interested in hearing the question on that.
And certainly we will provide more detailed information.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. As far as the hotel motel, there is other assets that are actually backed by those, like State Farm Arena and stuff. And they have been impacted by COVID enough to where a few months ago, or I would say maybe about a month ago, that there was a rating decrease, not just indigenous to us, but just it was pervasive across the country for all types of credit that actually had those type of revenues as their primary source. But we do have a lot of insurances that allows us to continue to actually make our debt service payments in that regard. One is our sinking fund, but the other is our debt reserves, that we actually have in place, and that should sustain us at least for a couple of years.
Well, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to put out there, I do think that that's a separate discussion from what you're getting, but I do think that it would be helpful for the council and citizens, too, to know what is backed by hotel motel tax, what the sinking fund and the reserves are, so that we can see the numbers and see how long it will last. And then also the final question will be is if it runs out, what is the backstop for paying that debt service if we don't have enough hotel motel tax? And I think that's a presentation we need to have as soon as possible.
Well, no, I have a broader but related question, which is, given this report and given the budget we passed required, fingers crossed behind the back that the economy was going to reopen quicker than it is, are we going to go back and reopen the budget and cut? That's a question for the finance department.
So in terms of your statement about us predicting that the economy will open up quicker, that was never the premise from our perspective. And this is why we made the cuts that we actually did. The premise was that we would actually take a look throughout the course of the fiscal year, to determine what adjustments we would actually have to make. And so far we have 2 months of actuals that we're actually trending toward. But as I mentioned some time back, that we will be taking a look after the first quarter to run our model again to see just where we feel that the revenues will actually be headed. And from that perspective, it will allow us to be able to make whatever adjustments we deem to be necessary to ensure that we can continue to provide the services that we need and still put the city in a solvent position, or keep the city in a solvent position.
All right. Well, I would say that it does not look good. That our predictions based on the budget were rosy, and that we may be back to cut unless things change. But I will yield to my other colleagues for questions and comments.
And Mr. Shook, I just wanted to add before I leave, if the staff or someone could put what I noted about a presentation related to all indebtedness that is backed by the hotel motel tax and the other issues that I pointed out earlier. If the Finance Committee could have that presentation.
All right, and that includes alcohol-related income, et cetera?
No, I'm more concerned on a different note, and that is the part of the hotel motel tax that is backing indebtedness, like Mercedes-Benz, State Farm Arena. I don't know to what extent the Gulch or any of those outstanding issues, know what those are and what the revenues that are coming in. And he says that and what I heard Mr. Council said is the sinking fund and a reserve fund is allowing us to continue to make those payments, and that he felt that it would last us for a couple of years. I want to see the numbers, but if the committee doesn't want to have that presentation, that's fine. Let me just make that request on my own. I want that information from the finance department.
Mr. Council, any problem with that?
None whatsoever, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, and when might we have that?
I could get it. I can probably have it to you by the next committee meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other colleagues with questions or comments?
Councilmember Matsuke?
Yes,
Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Mr. Council, do you have any type of projection? I know you mentioned the $1.8 million on the property tax was a timing issue. Do you have any projections for the full year on what the delta would be on the budget versus actual revenues?
For property tax?
For the entire budget.
Well, right now, I would say that, that we're actually still looking at trending toward what we've actually proposed. Again, we've only had 2 months into this fiscal year, okay? And that's why we wanted to actually take another look at the end of the quarter to actually see if the macro indicators, that we've used for our model has actually is able to provide us with additional information that will allow us to see just which way, certain revenues would be actually headed and what adjustments we would then need to be able to make. But right now, again, we only have 2 months of actual data that we are actually working with.
Right. The second part of the question is there was talk of an efficiency study that the administration was conducting. Can you speak to that? Do you know where that is and how that's coming along?
I'm not familiar with the efficiency study for this administration.
Yeah, COO Williams was heading that up along with Matthew Bartley.
Okay, so no, I can't provide you with any details on that at the moment, council member.
Is there someone from the administration that could speak to that?
No, let me repeat. That's an important question. Is there anyone representing the mayor's office who can speak to that on this call?
I could circle with them after this meeting.
Now, wait. No. Is there anyone representing the mayor's office on this call? No one. Well, I'm going to request it by adjournment. We have someone from the mayor's office on this call who can answer that question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all my question.
Now, all right. Well, that concludes our 4 scheduled reports. And now, Ms. Wright, we're ready to hear you recite the first reading.
Yes. Ordinance for first reading, 20-1606. Item number 1 is an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to enter into sole source agreement number SSS 1200549 with Tritech Software Systems Incorporated to purchase public safety systems, CAD support retroactively effective September 30th, 2020 through September 29th, 2021, in accordance with Section 21163 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinance for an initial term of 1 year with 3 one-year renewal term options. On behalf of the Department of Aviation and Atlanta Police Department, in an amount not to exceed $670,321.57. All contracted work to be charged and paid from funding numbers listed herein. Item number 2 is 20-1607, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to ratify cooperative purchasing agreement FC 9758, IBM Oracle ERP Managed Services and Support Services, and enter into change order number 2 with International Business Machine Corporation to extend the term of the agreement for 4 months retroactively effective from August 1st, 2020 through November 30th, 2020, and add funding to the agreement in an amount not to exceed $64,977.12 on behalf of the Department of Atlanta Information Management, Department of Aviation, Department of Watershed Management, and the Department of Public Works in accordance with Section 21163, subsection C of Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances. Item number 3 is 20-1608, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or her designee to exercise renewal term option number 2 of sole source agreement SC 10510, Smart Licenses and Maintenance Services, with Rave Wireless Incorporated doing business as Rave Mobile Safety on behalf of the Atlanta Police Department for a renewal term of 1 year, retroactively effective beginning September 11, 2020 through September 10, 2021, in accordance with Section 21163, subsection C of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, in an amount not to exceed $89,100.00 with 1 remaining 1-year renewal term option. Item number 4 is 20-1609, an ordinance to amend Ordinance 20-1346 adopted by the Atlanta City Council on June 1st, 2020, and approved per City Charter Section 2403 on June 10th, 2020 by correcting the department organization number for the Department of Public Works and correcting the department organization number and function activity number for Renew Atlanta Bond and T-SPLOST program for renewal number 2 of sole source agreement FC 8344 Enterprise Geographic Information System Software License Maintenance and Technical Support with Environmental Systems Research Institute Incorporated. Item number 5 is 20-1610, an ordinance authorizing the Chief Financial Officer on behalf of the Department of Atlanta Information Management to accept a revenue share in the amount of $529.55 from Changing Environments Incorporated, and authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY21 budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations in the amount of $529.55. Item number 6 is 20-1611, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or designee to enter into change order number 1 for FC 9950, Peachtree Creek Trunk Stabilization with Ruby Collins Incorporated, SC Consortium Joint Venture on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management in accordance with Section 21163, subsection C of Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, authorizing additional sewer improvement services, additional funding, and an amount not to exceed $1,211,545.00, extending the term of the agreement 497 days, retroactively beginning November 20th, 2019 through March 31st, 2021, to add funds to increase the owner control contingency in an amount not to exceed $88,455.00. And the last item is item number 7, 20-1612, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor to waive the competitive source selection requirements contained in Section 21187 of Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, to extend contract FC 9275 A and B with HealthStat Incorporated and Kaiser Permanente of Georgia for health center management of the on-site employee wellness center on a month-to-month basis for up to 12 months effective October 29, 2020 through October 28, 2021 on behalf of the Department of Human Resources in the amount not to exceed $2,500,000.00. All work will be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
All right, thank you. That was beautifully read. And now we are at ordinances for second read, the first of which is bear with me, 20-0-1583. This is an ordinance by Finance Exec authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal 21 budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations in the aggregate principal amount of $13,455,089.35 in connection with the Atlanta Equipment Lease number 5, the master lease agreement dated June 15, 1928, with First Municipal Credit LLC and other purposes. And who is presenting? Do we have somebody unmutated? Who, if anyone, wants this passed today? Alrighty. Let's move on to the next item. And if somebody's not been unmuted, apologies. Is there anyone who's unmuted? Anyone who's unmuted, speak up. Well, next item. Is 20-0-1584, an ordinance by the Finance Executive Committee authorizing the CFO to amend the fiscal year 21 budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations legal settlement proceeds in the amount of $234,873.06 in connection with the water and wastewater funds and for other purposes. And do we have a presentation?
Yes, sir. This is Johnny Watson from Treasury. Can you hear me now?
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes, I was on mute. I'm sorry, sir. This particular ordinance is related to the LIBOR settlement case that the settlement proceeds from the investment bank UBS. We were able to get a portion of the settlement money from that particular investment bank, and that's what this is related to.
All right. Give us some more detail about the settlement and the charges relating to the settlement.
Absolutely. So as most people probably know through the newspaper, the interest rate LIBOR is made up of a number of rates where you do a survey that were manipulated by the various banks over the previous years. As the Attorney General of the U.S. took the case to court, they settled with the various investment banks that were a part of this. The city had an interest rate swap that used LIBOR as one of its reference rates. As a result, we were able to get a settlement due to how the rate was probably not set correctly for our financial transaction.
Questions or comments?
Move approval.
I'll second that. If there's nothing else, let's open the vote.
One moment. The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, 6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Now, and I apologize, were you supposed to be unmuted for the previous paper?
Yes, sir, I was.
All right, go ahead and report on that.
Yes, this particular ordinance is related to the financing of some heavy equipment for the Department of Watershed. The previous amount had been $15 million that had been done at a much higher interest rate. This particular lease was refinanced down to a lower rate with a different principal amount, which resulted in a few savings on the equipment that the Watershed Department is using.
Move approval.
Yeah, I'll second. Yeah, Matchcock with the first. I'll second. Shook. Questions or comments? Let's ring it up.
The vote is open.
All right, 6 yeas, 0 nays. The ayes have it. That takes us to item number 10, 20-1585. And I will make a motion to bring forward a substitute. No change in the caption.
Second.
Second by Westmoreland. Let's open the vote on bringing forward the substitute.
The vote is open.
Please vote. All right,
The vote is closed and approved
unanimously. The caption is an ordinance by Finance Exec authorizing the CFO to amend fiscal year 2021 by adding to anticipations and appropriations bond proceeds in the aggregate principal amount not to exceed $61,949,715 in connection with the city of Atlanta North water and wastewater drawdown revenue bonds, North Fork project, taxable series 2020, and other projects. And who is presenting?
This is Mr. Watson yet again, chiming in on this one. In this particular case, this is the WIFIA loan that the Department of Watershed secured with the EPA to provide funding for the North Fork project.
Questions or comments?
Move approval.
Motion by Westmoreland. I will second that. If there's nothing else, let's open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, thank you. 6 yeas, 0 nays. We'll take the next two as together, if there's not an objection. 20-1600 is an ordinance by Mr. Metzkite authorizing a donation in the amount not to exceed $5,000 from the District 8 carry forward account to the Atlanta Police Foundation Operation Shield to assist with the Tuxedo Park Civic Association with the purchase of a camera and for other purposes. And 20-1602 is an ordinance by Ms. Ide authorizing a donation in amount not to exceed $2,000 from the District 6 carry forward account to Morningside Alliance Park Association, Inc., and for the purposes, I'll move group.
Second,
Archibald.
Wait.
Go for it. Yep. Second by a female. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right. Thank you. 6 ayes, 0 nays. The ayes have it. So ordered. Takes us to resolutions. Item 13 is 20R4376, which is a resolution by Ms. Shepherd to express support for House Resolution 164, which proposes to amend the Constitution of the state of Georgia through a question on the November 3rd, 2020 general election ballot, so as to authorize the General Assembly to provide by general law for the creation or renewal and dedication of revenues derived from the fees and taxes to the public purpose for which such fees and taxes were actually created and for other purposes. Ms. Shepherd, are you on the line? Do you have any comment?
Yes. I'm asking for y'all's support of this. What this is that, and I know Mr. Shook, some of y'all been around for quite some time and know that, for instance, if you go and purchase a tire, that they charge you $1 fee for tires. In terms of number one, getting rid of the tire, and there's a fee just through agencies who sell tires for tires. And there's some other entities in the state also where they're collecting these type of fees. But over the years, the state has actually literally been taking some of this money. So there's money that's set aside for tires, a huge amount of money, but it's not being used. And what the state has been doing for years is taking this funding and using it and applying it to their general fund for other venues. There's been a huge complaint about that across the state to a lot of municipalities. We also realized that through this tire program that I've been working on for years is that the state is really not rolling out this program in terms of illegal dumping of tires and a lot of different things that go along with it, along with some other parts of taxes that actually shouldn't be touched. So several senators, including my senator, Senator Orrock, and State Representative Tim Schofield, Gonzalo James, and a huge mass amount of other senators have worked over on the state side. I was at a public hearing there earlier this month speaking about what we do in the city in reference to this. But there's a House resolution that's been passed, House Resolution 164, and signed off by the governor that will make this a constitutional law now that money should not be touched other than what its purpose is for. But it will actually be voted on as similar to like a referendum on the ballot in November. So citizens will have to vote to support that. If they don't vote to support that, then we're going to be back to the same where we are. But it has been supported by the governor's office. He just signed off to it, saying that they can make it a constitutional amendment not to touch this funding, but it has to go before it's on the ballot on November the 3rd. So what I'm doing with this resolution is that actually just sending this resolution over to the state, asking for us to support this amendment and House Resolution Bill 164, that we as the city support this, and we're going to be marketing within the next month or so. You'll be seeing some advertisements in terms of asking citizens, educating them and asking them to support this. So I'm asking for you all support in terms of this.
Thank you. I will support it, but I have an amendment. I would like my name added as a sponsor.
Oh, okay. Absolutely. Anybody else who wants to add their name?
Any other take? And Matt Sakai. Yeah. Ms. Shepherd, thank you so much. We all know, these are revenue streams that get diverted, and, You know it, and we know it, and so we appreciate this. Any other takers on the amendment to add additional sponsors? If not, let's open that vote.
Can you add Westmoreland as well?
Yeah. Okay, Westmoreland, and Dickens, and Matsakite.
I guess just add everybody. Thank you. This is Archibong.
Okay, and Archibong. Excellent. Thank you again, Ms. Shepherd. Let's vote on the amendment.
Thank you. Are we ready, Ms. Simpson? Okay. Thank you.
The vote is open.
All right,
the vote is closed and the legislation is amended.
That amendment carries 6-0. I will now move approval as amended.
Second.
Second by Ms. Shepherd. If there's nothing else, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
All right, motion carries 6-0. Item is approved as amended. Our next item is
we're on item number 14, Mr. Chair, 20R4422.
Well, you might read it because I'm being excommunicated by the program here.
Okay. We do have an amendment to this item, and the amendment will simply change the amount from $26,000 to $50,000. If someone wants to make a motion to bring the amendment forward.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second by Westmoreland. Let's open the vote on the amendment.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The amendment is before you. It is an amended resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to exercise renewal term option number 1 of Special Procurement Agreement SPX 1200110 with Sensei Project Solutions Incorporated for the purchase of Sensei Beacon Project Portfolio Management Software Subscription, technical support, and professional services on behalf of the Department of Atlanta Information Management and the Department of Watershed Management for a renewal term of 1 year effective October 25th, 2020 to October 24th, 2021, and an amount not to exceed $50,000.00 with 3 remaining 1-year renewal term options, all contracted work to be charged to and paid from funding numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
All right, thank you. And presentation and explanation of the amendment, please.
Good afternoon, Councilman Shook. This is Gary Brantley, Chief Information Officer for the City of Atlanta. We received a faulty quote from the vendor on the estimated amount of what this solution would cost, and so now we're bringing this back to fix the error as it relates to this solution. This was a budgeted expense that we had already in place. We're just correcting an error that was actually committed by the vendor.
Questions or comments?
Move approval.
Yeah, I'll second that as amended. Questions or comments? Seeing none, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
All right, 6-0. It's approved as amended. That takes us to Item 15. This is a resolution by Finance Exec authorizing the mayor or her designee to enter into special procurement agreement number SPS as listed pursuant to section 2-11-19.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances with private recycling to process, use, or market recyclable materials generated within the City of Atlanta on behalf of the Department of Public Works for 1 year, not to exceed $1,500,000, all contracted work to be paid for, etc. At the administration's request, this is to be held as it needs to undergo the IPRO review, and so I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second, Westmoreland. Questions or comments? Hearing none, let's open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right. Motion to hold is unanimous. Yeah, I have a question. Is anyone from solid waste on the line? All right, we can maybe come back to that. Does that take us to duels?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Item number 16 would be your first.
Which is a resolution by Boone, Shepard, Winslow, Hillis, Bond, Brown, Smith, Overstreet, Dickens, Westmoreland, Cherokee, and Metzgite urging the Georgia General Assembly to adopt House Bill 1203, repealing Article 4, Chapter 4, Title 17 of the official Georgia Code, and amending Titles 17, 35, and 43 to prohibit arrest by private persons or other authorities not identified by a peace officer and other officials. And I've seen this come unanimously favorably out of public safety. My question for anyone on the Public Safety Committee is, was there testimony about the extent to which this is a problem here, and or was there any kind of testimony from APD?
Mr. Chair, this is Councilmember Shepard. There was no testimony. Basically, what this is resolution, this is in support of, is citizens arrest, and we've seen this happen across the country. And in particular, Ahmaud Arbery in Brunswick, Georgia, where folks were saying that they had a right to arrest him, that they suspected that he was stealing or doing something. So these folks decided to arrest him, and they killed him. And so across the country, state of Georgia is one city. And again, this legislation is back in the 1800s where we had that right. The statement pretty much is that we're over that. It's time for us to stop. As citizens, we shouldn't have the right to arrest people and make assumptions, because it causes a lot of other problems in terms of racism and people making decisions that are not righteous decisions. So for me, I like the motion to support, and this is just based on the fact that it's time for us to get rid of this law and move forward. It's nothing but a law that can be used for the wrong reason.
Second.
All right, there's a motion, a proper second by Westmoreland, and I totally respect that. Did APD testify at all as to the extent to which it's been a problem here?
No. And this is not just about Atlanta, just across the state. So, no, APD did not testify to this. No, sir, they did not.
All right. Well, so this catches me a little by surprise. I got a lot of homework to do. I totally understand the whereases, and so I need to look into that. I know my constituents are extremely fearful. Frankly, they don't feel the government is doing enough to stick up for them and support them. And so, boy, I just got some more work to do. So I'm going to abstain. So thank you. Any other questions or comments?
No, not at all. I will just say, in terms of understanding your homework in terms of doing it, but I still do not think that we have the right for citizens to make any arrest. That should be from the authority of the police department and not citizens. That's just really opening up a huge amount of problems. And so, but you have that right, Mr. Shook, to make that decision. Thank you.
Yeah, I get it. Boy, I don't want to do anything that's going to diminish constituents' rights to feel that government, which they don't feel, frankly, is doing enough to support and protect them, is diminishing those rights. But I totally get it. I tend to be guided by the facts. I just need more time to look into it, but I appreciate it. Any other questions or comments? Let's open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
All right, motion carries with one abstention. The next referral is number 18, which is the audit. Ms. Noble, are you on the line?
Yes, good afternoon. This is Amanda Noble, City Auditor. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Take it away.
We are here to present the results of our audit on management of Live Nation lease agreements, and Mike Jones, our audit manager and IPRO manager, will be doing the presentation. So go ahead, Mike.
Could he be unmuted, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Oh, okay. Good afternoon, council members and council chair. Thank you for allowing me to present on the performance audit. And I apologize for the council members who have already heard the presentation. This is the performance audit for management of Live Nation lease agreements. We undertook this audit after community concerns were raised about Live Nation's compliance with lease agreement terms at the Lakewood Amphitheater. These concerns were also shared with the audit committee. Since Live Nation also holds the lease for the Chastain Park Amphitheater, we included this venue in the scope of our audits. Next slide, please. The audit objectives for this audit were to determine if the city is, pardon me? The objective for this audit were to determine if the city is managing contracts to ensure Live Nation is paying all base and percentage rents due according to the terms outlined in the contract. The city is also excuse me, to determine if the city is also managing contracts to ensure Live Nation is complying with all provisions of the contract as required. Next slide, please. The scope of the audit covers operation and documentation from Lakewood and Chastain Park amphitheaters. We encountered some difficulty obtaining supporting documentation to complete some aspects of the review. Documentation requests from Live Nation would have helped verify revenue paid to the city. Unfortunately, language in both contracts with Live Nation does not require them to comply with our request. And even after this report was published, they did reach out to us to offer some cooperation. As a result, we were unable to confirm the city received all revenue due according to the provisions outlined in each contract and sponsorship agreement. Our methodology included reviewing contracts and amendments and name and title sponsorship agreements for Lakewood and Chastain Park amphitheaters from as early as 1987 and in 2009 when Live Nation took over. We also reviewed city codes, state and federal laws, and regulations related to venue management. We analyzed financial documentation as well as sound reading from events held during concert seasons from 2016 through 2019. We interviewed staff from 4 different offices or departments and subject matter experts from Live Nation. A key step in our methodology included consultation with the law department regarding clarification on a number of the contract provisions as well as assistance with documentation requests. Next slide, please. The background information for each amphitheater shows how the city should be paid according to revenue terms included in each lease agreement. Both lease agreements pay a base rent and percentage of net proceeds from sponsorship agreements that are in effect. However, there are some key differences between the two venues. The seat surcharge is only applied with the Chastain Park lease agreement, and percentage rents as well as maintenance credits are applied with the Lakewood lease agreement. Next slide, please. A summary of our findings are stated here. We found contract language for both venues needed strengthening. Inspections were not performed at Lakewood before deducting maintenance credits claimed. Reliable sound monitoring equipment was not installed at the Lakewood Amphitheater. Sponsorship agreements at Lakewood was unclear, and departmental oversight was also inadequate. The revenue entry error that's stated here has already been corrected. Next slide, please. We found contracts at both venues needed strengthening to facilitate revenue verification. This table shows revenue paid to the city from 2016 to 2018. Live Nation provided the Department of Enterprise Asset Management and Department of Parks and Recreation revenue summaries and invoices annually for revenue paid to the city. Only one of the 6 summaries and invoices provided included supporting documentation for the revenue paid to the city, and that was for FY 2018 at Chastain Park. Our recommendation has reference to the contract that requires Live Nation to provide box office statements, ticket manifests, and reports so that revenue can be independently verified. Earlier versions of the Chastain contract included these deliverables before they were removed with contract amendments. Next slide, please. In 2009, the Lakewood contract included an incentive for Live Nation to pay lower percentages on percentage rent items such as gross ticket sales and concessions if they made $3 million in capital investments within 3 years. We found Live Nation did not complete the required amount of capital improvements and opted to pay the top percentages in 2013. Next slide, please. Lakewood's contract requires Live Nation to perform maintenance that includes kudzu control to qualify for maintenance deduction credits. These credits can reduce the revenue paid to the city up to $48,000 per year. During our site visit to Lakewood in January 2019, we noticed kudzu overgrowth on the amphitheater building, the Gate 5 entrance on Lakewood Avenue, and next to the parking lot entering from Prior Circle. Next slide, please. We requested sound readings from events held at Chastain Park from 2016 to 2019. Department of Parks and Recreation was only able to recover 67% of the sound readings due to the cyber attack. Initial interviews indicated that there were no sound ordinance violations. According to Live Nation and CEI, which is the vendor who provides sound monitors and calibrates the equipment prior to each event, the Grosser system is old and unreliable and produces inaccurate results. Even though we found 3 events that violated the sound ordinance, the Chastain contract has permissive language that permits the city to issue fines but does not require it. Although no sound monitoring equipment was installed at Lakewood Amphitheater, APD received 27 noise complaints during the events held from 2016 to 2018. Next slide, please. The city made additional revenue from Lakewood sponsorship. Our review showed the Department of Enterprise Asset Management did not collect sponsorship revenue in 2017 and did not verify the payment from the 2018 concert season. Live Nation provided 2 separate sponsorship agreements with conflicting amounts due to the city. The city staff did not resolve the discrepancy with Live Nation. Furthermore, Lakewood's contract was unclear as to the specific percentage of the name and title sponsorship agreement Live Nation should pay to the city. Next slide, please. The Office of Contract Compliance staff found Live Nation had not submitted minority participation reports for the Lakewood or Chastain Park concert venue. We also found the Department of Parks and Recreation has not submitted mandated reports to the City Council Committee with the Oversight Authority, and that was the CDHS Committee. Next slide, please. This revenue entry area has also been corrected. Next slide, please. These are our recommendations. To clarify requirements and ensure compliance with the Lakewood lease agreement, the Department of Enterprise Asset Management should add specific language to require Live Nation to provide box office statements, ticket manifests, and reports so that revenue can be identified, independently verified by the city. Also add specific language to the audit clause in the Lakewood contract to ensure that the city has unrestricted access to audit all documentation associated with the contract terms, and add a provision requiring penalties for late payments. Next slide, please. Due to uncertainty over who is responsible for installing sound monitoring equipment at Lakewood, we recommend adding language to the contract that clarifies the roles and responsibilities. We also recommend adding language to the contract that sets revenue payments for name and title sponsorship agreement and specify any required documentation. And we also recommend requiring electronic payments for rent. Next slide, please. The same audit clause issued for the Lakewood contract is present in the Chastain Parks contract. Both contracts do not contain the current audit clause that is present on current city contracts. We recommend updating the audit clause and the name and title sponsorship clause on the Chastain Park contract. Next slide. Sure, adequate oversight. Recommend requiring staff to request and review supporting documentation to confirm rental payments are correct and require the Department of Parks to provide revenue reports to CDHS committee. Next slide, please. To ensure adequate oversight, we recommend requiring staff to request and review supporting documentation to confirm rental payments are correct and require DEEM to conduct maintenance inspections before authorizing deductions for the maintenance credits. Next slide, please. To ensure compliance with the sound business provision in the Chastain lease agreement, we recommend the Department of Parks and Recreation work with Live Nation to evaluate the sound monitoring system for replacement and or repairs prior to the next concert season. We also recommend Department of Parks and Recreation request that Live Nation provide records of replacement, repairs, and calibrations for the sound monitoring system at the Chastain venue. Of the 15 recommendations, the affected user agency agreed or partially agreed with our recommendations. Department of Enterprise Asset Management partially agreed with the recommendations on 1, 2, and 4. Next slide, please. This concludes our presentation. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. I have some, but I am particularly interested in hearing from the affected district members. So, y'all, go ahead.
Mr. Shook, I had my hand. I don't know if I'm next in line with Mr. Mazzacakis before me.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. We talked about this yesterday in CDHS. I would say, again, I think I was one of the people who actually asked for the audit to be done. We have been having a series of problems at Lakewood for quite some time. Just in not even talking about the issues really came from traffic and noise and trash on the outside of Lakewood. And we have oversight committees around the Lakewood Amphitheater involved with NPU XYZ that actually meet on a regular basis to address all the issues when the concerts are happening. So a couple of years ago, I had the Department of Public Works to do a whole assessment of traffic and trash and debris and all that. And as we did the tour and went inside, the community started asking questions about other things that were happening and began to want to dig deeper in terms of the whole process in terms of the city of Atlanta with Live Nation or, again, the Lakewood Amphitheater, because Live Nation has had it, but they actually inherited from, this has been around since the 80s, and so it has come to a series of different owners. But to that point, the audit is very glaring. What I found out is that we haven't done an audit on this. This is the first time we've ever did audit from the time of inception at Lakewood Amphitheater. I'm not sure about Chastain, but I'm very pleased with it, even though it's quite obvious that we have a lot of problems. So one of the things that I realized in terms of this is that the fact is that as a city, we are totally oblivious to what's happening with this. I see a lot of what was done in the audit showing that the department just dropped the ball, that no one had been looking. I had been working with Mr. Lavelle on this several times and asked a huge amount of these questions, and he always gave me some answer. I even met with Live Nation on several times on some of these particular situations, and I see that some of them have been resolved. But as a whole, this audit really shows clearly that departments involved, the OEAM or Department of Enterprise Asset Management, this is their purview. They have got to do a better job. We need to sit down with the law department to see how we can treat this. We just got in Parks and Rec. And so, and also we have a problem out there with watershed. So I'm going to be asking to have a meeting with folks from the mayor's office along with Parks, Rec, Dean, and even watershed to talk about some of the things we need to do about Lakewood Amphitheater. If we're going to have this as an amenity out there, we need to either pass it as an amphitheater or give it back to the Parks Department and make it into a park. So we have, we financially support this, but we've got to do a better job in terms of what's out there. We did an LTI study, myself and Ms. Smith did an LTI study years ago around the whole surrounding community around the Lakewood Amphitheater, and that was recommendations to do a collaboration with the amphitheater to make it into some park space and green space. And so we need to be looking at all of this. But again, what's obvious to me is that certain departments have not actually kept their eyes on this particular lease and compliance, and so we've got to do a better job. That's where I am in terms of Lakewood Amphitheater. Thank you.
No, you're being very generous, and these are recommendations from the audit committee, and if you feel like they need to be backed up in terms of legislation, please let me know. I'll be happy to sponsor. Mr. Matsakite, your response?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I want to echo many of the comments that Councilmember Shepherd made. I really do appreciate her asking for this audit and for the audit department conducting it. I think it highlighted a lot of things that we need to correct. And, I agree that the department, the Parks Department, has some things that they need to really step up on in terms of reporting to the CDHS committee. Councilmember Westmoreland, I would ask that you, be sure that the requirements that are laid out there are met, because it's good to get all that information out there and to be sure that we see it. I did meet with Interim Parks Commissioner Burks and the recommendation 11, which dealt with money, almost $25,000 that was moved, that was put into an incorrect account. She indicated that that has been moved and that they are working on sound system improvements that were laid out in the audit. So I had a good initial conversation with Interim Commissioner Burks on that, and I appreciate that. We just need to do a better job of being sure that we follow this contract and that we take the measures that are necessary to see that the city gets their money and frankly protect the neighborhoods, because these venues cause a lot of inconvenience and burden on the neighborhoods, and the sound is one of them. And we need to be sure that we have the system in place that is called for in the contract and that it's working. And so I think it would be really good, maybe recommend that Councilmember Westmoreland, that there's a follow-up on this at CDHS to be sure that these things have been done, in a couple months, so that we're following the recommendations of the audit committee. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
All right, Mr. Westmoreland. All right, I have it on good authority Mr. Westmoreland's going to clean all this stuff up.
Well, let me just say this, Mr. Shook. This is Councilman Shepherd again. I will seriously think about your recommendations that we take this audit, even though we're going to file it today, but take the recommendations from this audit and to make it into legislation that will mandate that these things are done. So I hear your recommendation, and I think it's a great idea, so I'll be working on that with Mr. Westmoreland.
No, please do. This drove Yolanda Adrian crazy, and it drove Claire crazy. It's been a long time problem, and so maybe we need a little bit more than audit recommendations. So, Ms. Shepherd, thank you so much for kind of taking the lead on this. If there's no other questions or comments, my motion will be to accept and file.
Second, Matsakite.
All right, if there's nothing else, let's ring it up.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
My computer went down, but I vote yes.
All right, motion carries 6-0, accept it and file. Thank you. That takes us to, we have two duels, I think, that have come our way. First one is item number 16, 20R4370, resolution by members Boone, Shepherd, Winslow Hillis, Bond, Brown, Smith, Overstreet, Chickens, Westmoreland, Faroki, Ide, and Matsakite, urging the Georgia General Assembly to adopt the official Georgia Code and amending Titles 17, 35, and 43.
Mr. Chair, We actually just took this item right before the communication. It's number 17 that we have left and number 19 for our dual referral.
Well, we don't have 16?
Yes, sir. We already took number 16. It was favorable in public safety. This is dealing with the citizen's arrest, and we abstained from that one. There was one abstention
from Mr. Shook.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you for reminding me. Number 17 is a resolution by Ms. Boone authorizing the reemployment of City of Atlanta, the Police Department Training and Quality Assurance Officer, Jared Davis, under Section 3-35A of the Charter of the City and for other purposes. And this comes forward to us favorably from Public Safety. Any questions or comments about this? I'll move through.
Second. Shepherd.
A second by Ms. Shepherd. If there's nothing else, let's open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? Do we have any voice votes for this one?
And survey says
we're closing the vote.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. That takes us to dual item number 19, which is a resolution by Mr. Brown requesting that the Department of Parks and Rec, City Planning Department, and Department of Finance Revenue Division partner with the principals of the Atlanta Street Food Coalition to establish a comprehensive food truck program in the city of Atlanta and for the purposes. This comes forward favorably from CDHR. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Ms. Shepherd. Questions or comments? Let's open the vote.
Mr. Chair, before we actually move forward with the vote, this did have an amended caption coming out of Public Safety and CDHS. If you would like me to read it, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that didn't come forth. Thank you, Santana. Thank you.
No, my apologies. 1 second. Okay, it is. Okay. A resolution by Council Member Antonio Brown is substituted and amended by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee, declaring that following the submission of legislation for consideration by the Atlanta City Council by the Department of City Planning pursuant to which Chapter 30, Article 23, public property vending shall be amended to provide for new ordinance to govern the regulation of food trucks operating on public property within the city of Atlanta, that there shall be written notice of proposed food truck legislation for review and comment to each neighborhood planning unit, declaring that thereafter a public hearing shall be conducted before the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee, during which the Department of Parks and Recreation, the Department of City Planning, and the Department of Finance, Office of Revenue, as well as outside stakeholders such as the Atlanta Street Food Coalition and the Fulton and DeKalb County Boards of Health, shall be invited to present information which may inform the Atlanta City Council's consideration of the proposed amendments to the City of Atlanta's public property food truck ordinances and for other purposes. The vote is open.
All right, the item carries unanimously. We have two held papers, colleagues, first of which is item 29, otherwise known as 20-01355, ordinance by Finance Exec waiving the joint venture notary requirement contained in the section indicated of the City of Atlanta Code, section indicated, et cetera, et cetera. Motion is to file.
Second.
Second by Ms. Shepherd. If there's no questions, let's open the vote to file.
One moment, preparing the vote. The vote is open.
Please vote. 5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. That takes us to our last action item, which is item 31, which is 20-01523. And Ms. Kempson Wright, I'm saying we have substituted, so could you please read the caption?
Yes. If someone wants to make a motion to bring the substitute forward first, please.
And I will.
So moved. Okay, second, Joy.
The vote is open.
Procedural motion to bring the substitute forward. All right. Ms. Kempson Wright, it's unanimous.
Okay. It's an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet as substituted by Finance Executive Committee, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Fulton and DeKalb counties to conduct a special election on November 3rd, 2020, to determine the approval or non-approval by the residents of the City of Atlanta of a homestead exemption from City of Atlanta ad valorem taxes for municipal purposes in the amount of $30,000 of the assessed value of the homestead, and for residents of the city who hold real property subject to a written lease having an initial term of not less than 99 years, with a landlord that is an entity exempt from taxation under Section 501c3 of the Federal Internal Revenue Code and who owns all improvements located on the real property, to appoint the Fulton and DeKalb County Boards of Registration and Elections, acting as its agent as municipal election superintendent for conducting said election, and as absentee ballot clerk and as municipal clerk register and for other purposes.
And who is here to present?
Mr. Chair, this is Horace Webb, Municipal Clerk. Just want to advise the members of the council, the substitute is to remove any and all references to any cost associated to the said contract with DeKalb County and Fulton County to conduct the election, as well as to attach the actual contract itself, which is the IGA. There are absolutely no costs associated with this election, and that it will be on the presidential election ballot, whereby the City of Atlanta will be piggybacking the election at absolutely no cost.
Okay. Thank you. Why did we need this legislation?
Because because there is a question that is placed on the ballot for the November 3rd election, and typically when we contract with DeKalb County, or we have anything placed on the ballot for citizens in Atlanta as well as Atlanta DeKalb, they're required some type of IGA just to formally have Fulton County and DeKalb County conduct the election on our behalf.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Mr. Chair, after your vote, will someone from the administration explain what it's for? I'm getting questions as to why the question and what it's for, and I think people need to understand the question that's on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's available?
Mr. Chair, this is Ms. Jackson. I am going to follow up with someone to get that response to you.
Okay. All right. While we're waiting for that, can we go back to 20R 4423? The plat proposal here from the administration.
Yes. Can you advise me of your specific question regarding that?
Well, there was a lot of angst, a lot of questions a year ago around this, and I was hoping we would be elucidated on the long-term plan and the immediate terms of why this contract is beneficial to our ratepayers.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what I would say to that, Mr. Shook, is that, we've had a change in leadership in that overall department. And so what I would request is the opportunity to have this conversation with the interim commissioner, Justin Johnson, and have him respond to you on that.
All right, I agree. We're holding it. I appreciate that. Any other questions or comments from the committee of that? All right, do we have any more insight into held item 31?
Mr. Shook, my question related to the referendum question to be answered absent the paper that the clerk spoke to. I just think that the public.
Ms. Moore, I can't understand. Ms. Moore, I can't understand what you're saying.
Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Is that better? Okay, I'm sorry. I said that I believe that my question can be answered after you can go ahead and vote on what's before you. My question can be answered after that, but I'm just saying that I'm getting questions from the public because people are voting now and they see the referendum question and they want to understand what it's about, where it came from, what is it doing. And right. So somebody can answer that question. It doesn't have anything to do with the paper.
No, I agree. Is there anyone on the call who can provide background?
Would that be No, I'm getting that background.
I'm sorry?
Is that finance? Okay. No, I'm reaching out to make sure I get you the correct person to respond to that.
Well, who might that be? We're just looking for an explanation.
I am searching for Ms. Terry Lee.
All right. So if Finance needs to send this to Committee on Council, But if we don't understand what's going on, then as far as I'm concerned, that should be without recommendation.
So and I have a question too, Ms. Morris. To be honest with you guys, I got my ballot in the mail, my absentee ballot in the mail a couple of days ago, and I'm looking at it. So the question is, what is our homestead exemption now? Is it $30,000? What is, because I thought we were already there. It says, shall the act be approved which provides a new homestead exemption from the City of Atlanta ad valorem taxes for municipal purposes in the amount of $30,000 for each resident of the City of Atlanta who holds real property subject to a written lease having an initial term of not less than 99 years with a landlord that is an entity exempt from the taxation under Section 501c3 of the Federal Internal Revenue Code and who owns all improvements located on the real property. So, Mr. Westmore, I don't know if he's here, but I remember somewhere in CDHS, as I read this now, that this may have something pertaining to 501c3 in terms of who they are and what, in terms of them having, if they're a 501c3, they will be exempt from, they would actually be a part of the exemption also. I'm thinking that's...
Yes, Ms. Shepherd, I do believe I've been asking this question, and I got some information that's related to some community land trusts that may not have that exemption, but I believe if we're going to put a question on a ballot, that we need to have somebody needs to have some information that we can share with the public, and that's why I was asking, maybe thinking I'd get a fuller answer.
Well, I'm going to make a recommendation.
And I am working on making sure you get that information.
Can I do this, Mr. Ship? Can I move it forward with no recommendation on condition that we get the answer before the council meeting on Monday?
Second, Matsakite.
There's a motion and a second.
We're preparing the vote.
Okay, thank you.
I have my hand raised for a question. What's the motion?
The motion is that we move it forth with no recommendations based on conditions that we get the answer to the questions by Monday council meeting.
Thank you.
I have an additional condition, which is I would like the answers to the questions I've been asking for 2 years to get a breakout of all of the residents who are entitled to exemptions across all the different jurisdictions.
Second, Matsakite.
All right. Questions or comments about moving it forward with those conditions? Seeing none, let's vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed.
Yeah, I'm showing 4 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 abstention. So, motion carries.
Mr. Shook, I did want to answer, if you don't mind. I had my hand raised.
Yes, sir.
Council President Moore, I know you were looking for an answer from the administration, and I, too, had received requests from
members of the community, particularly seniors. And I asked, and I reached out, and I got this answer because I thought it was about CLTs, and it is about community land trust CLTs. Right. And essentially, this is the short part of the answer. I'm sure there's a longer answer that somebody else should be able to give us, but it's this measure would give CLT owners the ability to receive homestead exemptions like other homeowners. Right now, if you are a community land trust, you don't get homestead exemptions like I have in my home.
And that's the answer I've gotten too. But, you know, I was looking for something that we could share with people because the question doesn't speak to community land trusts. People don't maybe not even know what they are. And somebody asked me, you know, what are the pros, what are the cons? I only got that piece of the answer, but I do think we need to have it because the public is going to want to know what they're voting on.
Sure. Correct.
Hold on,
Actually, that's the case for all of those.
Ready to, Ms. Cynthia, who works with Ms. Terry Lee, will be coming on. She's getting the information. She's getting the call-in information.
Thank you. Meanwhile, Ms. Councilman-Wright, is that the last piece of business?
Yes, that does conclude all of your business.
All right. Well, let's see if we can capture Ms. Lee here.
Mr. Schiff, this is Archimon.
Yes.
She needs to be unmuted.
Okay. And I just wanted to say I'm co-hosting a webinar and I need to be excused.
Thank you. I think we're done, but thank you.
Okay. All right, fine.
Vivian needs to be unmuted.
All right. Ms. Lee needs to broadcast that to us via email, but I think we're done here for today.
Well, Mr. Schiff, you did have a question regarding the efficiency exercise.
What? For solid waste?
No. Following the finance report, it is my understanding that you inquired about operational efficiencies and the activities that the Chief Operating Officer was engaged in.
What do you got?
Well, first of all, let me say that I have communicated with him, but he is out of the office today handling some emergencies. But what is currently going on right now is that the Chief Operating Officer and his staff, they are working with the various departments, and each department has been asked to identify opportunities for efficiencies in their respective areas. So right now they're in the data gathering phase, and once this is complete, they'll be able to identify specific opportunities where efficiencies can be obtained, and we anticipate that there are going to be preliminary recommendations available in December.
Thank you. Questions or comments about that?
I think Ms. Bithia is on the phone and waiting to be unmuted for the CLT conversation. It's not Terry Lee, but it is a staff person who works with her, who is very well versed on the CLT referendum question.
That's great. Bring her on.
One moment, Mr. Chair. We're trying to coordinate this logistically. We weren't made aware of who actually is calling and their number so that we can't place them in the queue. We apologize.
Thank you.
Line unmuted.
Well, first of all, let me say that I have communicated with him, but he is out of the office today handling some emergencies, but what is currently going on right now is that the chief operating officer and his staff, they are working with the various departments, and each department has been asked to identify opportunities for efficiencies in their respective areas. So right now they're in the database gathering phase, and once this is complete, they'll be able to identify.
Okay, Cynthia has been unmuted. Cynthia, are you on? Cynthia?
I think Ms. Cynthia is on the phone, so waiting to be unmuted for the CLC conversation. It's not her, but it is a staff person who works with her, who is very well.
Yeah, okay.
Cynthia?
Ms. Kempson, right. Is there any other business to come before the committee, because we'll have to follow up on this one?
Yeah, we've already did the legislation to bring it forward, so the answer can be on Monday. We don't have to wait at this point. That we're waiting, and we can just wait unless we're going to, once he brings forth the information, are we going to go back and try to vote on this? We don't have a quorum, I don't believe, at this point. So, again, I don't know. I just think that we can move on.
Well.
Oh, well, Mr. Shook, she's telling me she's on, and she just needs to be unmuted.
Okay, let's try that.
Mr. Shook, our logistic team has unmuted everyone.
Okay. Do we have a quorum?
So what we will do, so Mr. Shook, notwithstanding these technical difficulties, what we will do is make sure that we send a memorandum out to the council with background data on it so that you have the information to answer your constituents and to provide overall background on this.
Okay. Let's do that. So my understanding is there's no one who's trying to speak that's unmuted. So Ms. Kempson, right. Is there any other business?
Yes, sir. There is not.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I'll second the motion to adjourn.
Yeah, seconded and moved to adjourn. I'll be both.
Thank you.
I'm just gone.
Yeah. You and me both, Brock. We're adjourned.